Kenneka Jenkins, otherwise known as the girl in the freezer. You will never not convince me that something horrible happened that night, because how do you go missing inside of a hotel only to be found dead inside of one of their walk-in freezers 24 hours later? So many things don't add up about this case, so let's talk about it. On September 8th, 2017, 19-year-old Kenneka Jenkins borrowed her mom's car and left their home in Chicago. It was around 11:30 p.m. and she was really excited about going to a private party with her friends at the nearby Crown Plaza Hotel in Rosemont. The party was being held in room 926 and she arrived a little after 1 that morning. People at the party reported seeing her drink a little bit, but they said that she wasn't acting like her usual self. She seemed sad, and while she would normally be dancing and having fun, she was kind of just sitting by herself and not really talking to anyone. Kenneka last spoke with her sister at around 1:30 that morning, not long after arriving, and what happened after this has never fully been explained. Over the next couple of hours, Kenneka was seen walking the halls of the hotel with her friends, and security camera footage shows her appearing to be intoxicated and stumbling throughout the hotel. At around 3:20 that morning, she was seen on camera near the front desk, and about 5 minutes later, she was seen exiting the elevator on one of the lower floors. The last time Kenneka was seen alive was at 3:32 a.m., where she is spotted on security footage walking into one of the hotel's kitchens. She's then seen walking around the corner where she disappears. Now, the kitchen that Kenneka walked into was under construction and at the time was not currently being used, so it was completely empty. The kitchen was kind of tucked away, and on the way there, multiple hotel employees saw Kenneka very obviously intoxicated, staggering through the hotel alone, but nobody stopped her. So it's a little crazy to me that she was able to find the kitchen in the first place, let alone enter. It wasn't locked or blocked off from the public, but it was a really eerie scene. About an hour later, Kenneka's friends started calling her mom in Kenneka's car saying that they couldn't find her, so they left the party. They reportedly had Kenneka's phone as she left it behind in the hotel room. Now, shortly after she disappeared, Kenneka's friends started texting each other saying how she was really drunk and now missing. And someone replied back saying that they need to find her and they can't believe that they lost her. Her friends told Kenneka's mom that she was last seen leaving the hotel room with a couple of people heading downstairs, and that they stayed behind to collect their belongings. Obviously freaking out, Kenneka's mom went to the hotel as fast as she could, getting there around 5:30 a.m. and immediately began searching for her. She asked the hotel management for the security footage from that night, but they refused to give it to her. They said that they couldn't release the footage until she was reported missing to police. So then Kenneka's mom tried reporting her missing to the Rosemont Public Safety Department, but they told her that it would be a good idea to wait a few more hours because she will probably just turn up. But that is not what happened, and I can't even imagine the anger that her family must have been feeling at this point. Kenneka was officially reported missing at 1 p.m. that day, and although police notified hotel management, literally no one showed any urgency in the matter. After a few hours went by with no one really doing anything about her disappearance, Kenneka's mom and sister went back to the hotel and began knocking on as many of the guest doors as they could to try and get any information. And instead of helping them, the employees at the hotel got annoyed and actually called the police on them. It wasn't until 10 p.m., 9 hours after she was reported missing, that police reviewed the security footage and saw Kenneka. But it would then take another 2 hours for them to locate her. Authorities found Kenneka deceased in the kitchen that was under construction. She was laying face down inside the walk-in freezer. The only trauma she had on her body was a cut on her ankle, a chipped tooth, and a small injury to her thigh. Her brain had also swelled, and I'm not sure if that's just naturally what happens after death, but the way she was found is incredibly bizarre. She was found to be missing one of her shoes and socks, but on the security footage of her walking into the kitchen, presumably when she was last alive right before she died, she had both of her shoes on. Another thing is that her clothes were extremely dirty and her hair was matted down, and that's something that has never been explained. Now, for the condition of the freezer. After leaving the door open for 2 hours, the temperature was 34 degrees, so I can only imagine that it was much, much colder with the doors shut. During the investigation, police reviewed the security footage that showed Kenneka walking into the kitchen. She was alone, but conveniently enough, there was no camera pointing directly at the walk-in freezer, so the footage never actually showed her entering the freezer at all. After interviewing Kenneka's friends that were with her at the party the night she died, their stories all seemed to be inconsistent with one another. No illegal drugs were found in her system, but her blood alcohol level was 0.112, and mysteriously, traces of the drug topiramate were found, which is a drug that's used to treat epilepsy and migraines. Kenneka was not prescribed this, so how it ended up in her system, no one knows. Even with certain evidence pointing to something sinister having possibly occurred, Kenneka's death was ultimately ruled accidental. According to the medical examiner, she died from hypothermia, and the alcohol and drug found in her system was a contributing factor. If taken together, alcohol and topiramate can speed up the effects of hypothermia, and based on the lesions found in her stomach, this is likely what happened. Because of these findings, the Rosemont Police Department said that no foul play is suspected, and unfortunately, Kenneka's death was just a tragic accident. They believe that Kenneka was overly intoxicated dehydrated and just so happened to walk into the freezer by herself and possibly passed out and died from the cold, all willingly, and that no one else was involved. But a lot of people, including Kenneka's family, don't believe this, and here's why. So first off, the fact that she was found in a kitchen that was under construction and not being used is odd. There were huge plywood doors that had a padlock on them, yet the kitchen wasn't locked or taped off to keep the public from entering. There's a video of the exact path that Kenneka would have had to have taken to get to the kitchen, and it's really not that easy to get to if I'm being honest, especially when drunk or drugged. It's so far off the beaten path, and I'm all for exploring new places, but this location in specific is just odd. Now, although the kitchen wasn't in use, for some reason the freezer was on, and not only would she have had to walk into the cooler that it was in, she would have had to also open up the door to the freezer itself that was inside the cooler. Meanwhile, the lights were off in both, so it was pitch black. Even being drunk, many question why anyone would do this. It was especially cold in there, which oftentimes sobers a person up, but no one really knows what happened when she went in there. One of the biggest questions is why she couldn't get out on her own. The door to the freezer wasn't locked on the outside, and there was a handle on the inside where she was at that would enable a person to get out on their own. The family's legal team has argued that someone could have secured the door from the outside, not knowing she was in there. And this isn't incredibly unlikely because while Kenneka was actively missing, before she was found, one of the hotel employees actually walked into the same freezer where Kenneka's body was and didn't even see her. How? I have no idea. So the fact that she could have been accidentally trapped inside isn't super far-fetched. But as far as I can find, no one else is seen entering the kitchen on the security cameras. This brings me to another point. A conspiracy theory has run rampant about the security footage having possibly been manipulated. Some believe that the footage cuts out certain parts of the night. And adding fuel to this theory is the fact that multiple cameras in the hotel that could have been useful in seeing what happened just so happened to not be working that night. Some believe that the hotel security could possibly be involved. And that's because the night Kenneka died, there were several noise complaints about the party she was at from other guests. Yet security did nothing to shut it down. They also didn't investigate a minor who was very obviously intoxicated and stumbling throughout their hotel. And why they didn't really beats me. And don't even get me started on the YouTuber who was investigating Kenneka's death and then mysteriously died not even a year after posting about it. That's a whole other story, so let me know if you want to hear about that. Kenneka's family was able to file a lawsuit against the Crown Plaza for failing to secure the kitchen and for not shutting down an illegal party. And they were also able to sue for not thoroughly checking the security footage in a timely manner, and they actually won $10 million because of it. It's now been 7 years, and whether you believe Kenneka was met with foul play or not, I think we can all agree that whatever happened to her that night was sinister, and it should have never happened.